Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Melissa, and as promised, I am here live for my very first episode of Soul Speak. You'll have to excuse where I'm looking because this tablet is quite notorious for me looking the wrong way, so I will do my best to keep looking at you. And I've got my phone here because according to my phone, I'm not even live yet. So I'm just going to give you guys a few moments to get on. And here I am. So let's just tag me. I would love it if you are watching, if you could share my video, if you could come and say hello, if you could give me a like, if you could give me a wave, if you could do any of those things, because yeah, I would love to get a few people on board. So I can see some people are starting to come in, so welcome. Right now, can't see any comments, so if you could just give me a comment or two, that would be lovely, and I'll know that this is all working. Thank you. I got a heart. So I suppose I should begin by introducing myself. So I am Melissa. I am a soul coach, and I am the creatrix of Soul Speak. I have been working in the spiritual platforms for a good few years now, and my specialisms, I'm not sure I even have, I'm not even going to call them specialisms, but my joy, my, the things that I love are to do with helping you find your own power. So whatever modality we use, whether that's through energy healing, whether that's through inquiry, whether that's through using cards, through workshops, or whatever way we work together. For me, it's about you finding your strength and finding your power. And that's what I'm all about. Oh, I can see some of my lovelies coming on board. Hi, Shelley. Hi, Katja. So, yeah, I decided to put on this show as Soul Speak because everyone always tells me I've got a lot to say, and I've been running a lot of workshops recently, which have been, obviously they're quite inclusive, and we have however many people come in, but for this, I want it to be more of an open forum. I want you guys to come and ask me, what is up with you guys? What's been going on with you? What are your questions about spirituality? For me, I've been walking this path, as many of us have, for so long that it becomes almost second nature, and I don't always know what some of the struggles that you are going through. So please, let's use this forum to ask me whatever questions that you've got, and maybe we can open some sort of discussion. So yeah, so that's me. Hi, Kerry. So I did put a post up a few days ago which asks you guys to ask me anything, and I did have some pretty juicy questions. So why don't I start with some of them? Okay, Katja, I'm going to start with yours because I can see that you are here live. Katja asked me a very juicy question. She said, is there a new healing modality or spiritual discovery that you have uncovered recently but hadn't known existed before? Okay, where to begin with that? I would say that throughout my whole spiritual path, everything has come to me as it was laid out. So for example, it started with Reiki, and I had heard of Reiki at quite a young age, but when I was ready to learn it, when I was ready to experience it, that's when it literally came into my home. So this was back in 2008. It was fairly new to me. I kind of heard the term around, and I'd known people. My mum actually had a Reiki healing, and it had cured her eczema. But when I was so basically I used to work in a very male-dominated industry. It was really stressy. There was a lot of pressure on me. I was in a really competitive environment. So I used to see this lady, Claire, who I used to come and give me a massage just to help me manage my stress. And one day she placed her hands on top of my head like this, and I felt this almighty sense of peace. It just filled up my head, and I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? She went, oh, it's Reiki. I was like, you need to tell me more about this. And it wasn't long after that I learned Reiki 1. Honestly, at that time, I didn't think that it was something that I would be able to learn. I thought it was something that you were either born with, or that, you had to go through some like initiation hoops to get through or something. But little did I know that it was just a case of a weekend with my lovely teacher, Michelle Hancock, who, again, I found through this, these synchronistic events, and she was the perfect teacher for me. She was really grounded, and she made it all really normal for me. So that was the start of all of it, Katja. And you're asking, is that something new? Well, it wasn't new, but it was new to me then. From this, things started to progress. Again, I had never heard of the law of attraction until somebody said to me, have you read The Secret? And I went, no, what's the secret? No, do you know The Secret? That's what it said. I was like, no, what's the secret? And one of my colleagues at work lent me a copy. And I was like, I remember reading it, like jaw dropped. Like, how is this true? Really? Do our thoughts become things? And from there, other books came through. I started to read the, what's her name? Jane Roberts, the Seth book. So one of my first spiritual reads, and The Power of Now. And all of these healing modalities just started to come to me. And that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That is absolutely what happened to me every single time. The biggest one, which I had never ever heard of, which those of you that know me would know that it's made the biggest impact in my life, was the Akashic Records. Now, I'd never even heard that concept, and I had won a reading with a lady in the States called Tammy, and she'd done me an astrology reading, which blew my mind. And then a few months later, I got in touch with her and told her all the things that she'd got right about my year ahead. And she said, oh, Melissa, I've been thinking about you. I want to read your Akashic Records. And I was like, I don't know what that is. But honestly, I've had these goosebumps come down my back. And I thought, oh, okay, there's something here for it. And I went into that reading absolutely not knowing what to expect. But I was open to it. It felt right for me. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like there was something there, that there was, it was a little bit scary. There was a part of me, I think, that was like, oh, I'm not sure what this is. This seems a bit weird. But I felt this, these goosebumps on the back of my head. Shelley, that was Tammy. I'm still in touch with her. Her webpage or her Facebook page is North Node Venus Astrology, I think. Tammy Manzo. I'll tag her on the end of this video later. So anyway, she opened my Akashic Records, and those of you that have worked with me before or are following my page, that changed my life, because I was obviously ready for it, but I didn't consciously know I was ready for it. I wasn't seeking it or searching for it, but there it was once again, like the Reiki, landing at my door. And we opened my records, and I remember Tammy coaching me through it. Tammy works very differently to how I do. I remember Tammy coaching me through it, and I started to receive this. It was like a video coming across my eyes, and I could start to see all of these past lives that that I'd lived before, and she was coaching me through. She works very much with the energy and moving energy through, rather than how I work, which is about reading and explaining what these lives are. You know, I can literally see them as like running like a movie in front of me. But from that was a 2.5 hour experience. I remember my legs shaking like the whole way through. But that cleared a lot of energy for me. I started to understand from the records that I used to be a teacher in different lives, that I had these magics in me that I didn't know. I mean, I'd always been interested in spirituality, and I'd had a lot of experience with Reiki by this point, and reading all the books and doing all the things. But I just thought it was a hobby. I just kind of took it as something that that was fun and I was interested in, made me feel good. But when that reading came along, it cleared out all of that dredge and that sludge that was sitting in my energy field, blocking me from my truth and blocking me from my authenticity. So yeah, the Akashic Records came and blew my mind and changed my life. Now, in answer to the original question, if I would have received that, had that offer a year before, would it have made such a difference? I'm not sure. I really think it was a case of I was ready. I met the right person. She coached me through it rather than read for me. And I had this realization, and amazingly, it was while we were in the records together that I had this, I guess you could call it a download, saying, you need to work in the records. And quite honestly, at that point, I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but let's see. And then Tammy, bless her, I'd said that I was going to give her a reading at the time. I was doing a bit of tarot and oracle card readings and that sort of thing. And she said to me, I want you to open my records. And I went, okay, not scared at all. So I remember sitting down for that session, and absolutely, I was so nervous. And she introduced me to Linda Howe and her Pathway Prayer. And I'd been reading her book. Anyway, I opened up her records, and again, I started to get this movie screen in front of me of all of these lives that she had lived. And, she was saying, can you help me understand this relationship? And she just gave me the name. And I was going, oh, this and this and this happened. And then she was going, yes, this, I can see how that's playing out in my life now. That's absolutely the dynamics of our relationship. And I was just like, I can't even believe that this is real and this is true. So, and that, as they say, was the end of that. Well, the beginning of that. And it wasn't long after that I started reading other people's records, because that experience with Tammy helped me realise that this wasn't a case of, oh, I'm winging it or I'm fluking it or I'm, don't get me wrong, that imposter syndrome absolutely showed up, but there was the energy that was behind it that we'd activated and worked on in the records, and the work that I'd done outside of that afterwards, where I went into my own, really helped propel me and move me forward. And then Holy Fire found me. I will talk a bit more about Holy Fire later, because I've had about 5 questions about the Holy Fire. But that was another thing, Katja, that I had never heard of it. And in the space of a week, I think I had 3 people mention it, or I'd seen it, and I was thinking, I don't know. And it started talking about religious trauma and started talking about the Christ energy. And I was thinking, oh, I'm not sure this one's for me. But I kept getting this pull and this, I don't know, again, the goosebumps were coming in. And this was with the lovely Sarah Jane. And we ended up doing a one-to-one private session and coming into Holy Fire teacher. And that energy again, that blew my mind. That was about a year. I think that was about a year after I'd found the Akashic Records. So again, right place, right time. It came into my awareness. I didn't know how it would change because I had done other forms of Reiki as well. But the holy fire for me just felt very current, and it was definitely, I see it now, it was definitely something that I needed, but that helped raise my energy. But we'll talk a bit more about holy fire later. And then the Manai. When I met Michelle Martin, that was I'd never heard of that until five people talked to me about the Manai, and I got offered it. I want to pass you this right. Do you want to do this and move you? And it was never quite right until I met Michelle, and well, I'd known Michelle a while. We'd been doing some shamanic training together. And the moment she put her hands on my shoulders and connected to the lineage, I was like, this is incredible. So that had come into my awareness. I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't quite the right time. And even though I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this, it kind of never transpired until the right teacher and the right time and the right circumstances all came through. And now I passed those rites with Michelle. So it was another life changer. Could it have all happened in another order? For me, no. For me, it was the right place at the right time, and this progression. And I'm doing this, and is it always like this? No, it's kind of more like this, isn't it? As we all know, but I'm English, I've got my tea. I'm just going to read you what it says on here. Your strength is your own belief. I feel like the yogi tea gods are giving me a bit of support for my first session. So hopefully, Katja, that makes sense. Yeah, I hope that's answered your question. Have any new healing modalities come into my awareness? Well, Shelley asked me about Lightweb, which is something that I joined the $1 Million Experiment at the beginning of the year. Some of you might have seen that. And Joanna Hunter has been talking about this Lightweb thing. And I really like what she says. I feel like I've been working in a similar energy, and maybe we can talk a bit about my take on that a bit later on if you're interested. So yeah, that was a new healing modality that came into my awareness. But this is what I want to say. I am definitely not one that goes for every single thing that comes into my space. I'm not like, oh, that's because that's come into my awareness, I have to go and take that. Because not everything is going to raise your energy. Not everything that because they've done it and it's worked for them, it's going to work for me. You've really got to take it into your being and understand whether or not this is something that is going to help you expand or not. And honestly, like I did that with angelic Reiki. I took it because I felt like I should take it. And I really enjoyed it. And Casca, the teacher, is brilliant. I met a really lovely bunch of people. But in terms of the energy, it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't quite as expansive for me. But that doesn't mean that it isn't for anyone else. Katja, it does. It's funny how it happens. It comes into your life when you are ready to receive it and share it, teach it. Interesting to know you don't take anything that comes in. I often wonder for myself. You know, it's an interesting conversation because we often have this thing, right? Oh, well, if it's, we create our reality and the path is put in front of us. And I remember when I sat in circle, one of the guys that I sat in circle said, well, if it comes in, then I'm going to take it, because if it comes in, then it must be something that I'm doing. And I remember when Rahani was offered to us, and I kind of was like, oh, this sounds cool, a celestial energy healing. And, you know, please, when I'm saying this, no, I'm not saying anything against Rouhani, because I know people who do it, who love it. But when I sat with the energy, I thought, don't know, doesn't feel right for me. Like, there was, you know, it was just, it wasn't my ascension path. It wasn't in my space. So it was really a case of bringing it into the body and going, okay, what's going to happen? And, you know, if you work with cards or you work with any of these kind of intuitive tools, you can ask that question. Yes, I take it. No, I don't. Which, rather than should I take it, which is always a bit of a leading question energetically, is you go, I do take it, I don't take it, and you can pull 2 cards or pull 2 crystals or whatever it is that you use, or you know, if you use the pendulum or whatever, and then see where that energy takes. It's like, you know, there's all these membership programs, and I remember when I joined Kyle Gray's angel team, I felt it. I felt like this is going to be great, and I kept pulling cards, and I kept getting the world, and there was another more expensive group joining, and that kind of felt like the better option or the safer option or something. But as I was going, okay, either or, I'm not going to do both. I'm not going to have the energy to do both. It was the one that I felt that expansion. But I have to tell you, those of you who were, you know, in circle at Kerry, I see you here. We were in circle together. And I remember asking that question, should I? And then I realised it was the wrong question to ask. It was, okay, what's going to happen if I do? And what's going to happen if I don't? And I remember asking the same question for one of my friends who a year later wanted to join Angel Team, and it was, what will happen if I do, and what will happen if I don't? For me, it was completely right. And I look back, it was, you know, 4 years ago or whatever it was now, and the connections I've made and the growth I've had, not just from the learnings, but, you know, the experience that I've had from there. A lot of people on here watching, I think I met through the Angel Team, or through the Angel Guide certification program, right? So it was a massive thing for me. But for my friends, we pulled 2 options, and I remember one of them was like about an expansion, looked really good. It was like, yeah, if you join, you're going to have this. But then the other one was about balance, and the way she worked, where she was in her life was actually, you know, she had 2 young kids, and she was starting her business, and balance was more important for her at that point than this expansion. So yay, Angel Team, Marianne. So, you know, it's a case of, and oh my goodness, at the beginning of this year, I think I had like invites or you know, my awareness into 5 different memberships, and I was like, oh, I really want to do all of this, so much to learn. And when I sat with it, I thought, I don't have the energy to do all of that. I'm just going to be diluting things. So yeah, certainly take it in, and okay, this is what I want to say. Don't give your power away. It's not about going, well, that next course, that next healing modality, that next teacher, that next workshop, that next seminar, that next book is going to give me what I'm missing. Because you can read all the workshops, sign up to all the membership sites and read all the books, but until you bring it in, and until you integrate it, and until you practice it, it's not going to make that difference. And actually you can end up diluting or having, you know, all these different opinions, and then that can throw you off guard. Katja, I love your take on energy diluting, giving your power away. Lovely, thank you. Yeah, the power's all in you, and the answers are all in you, but what you want from a teacher is somebody who can activate that power in you, to help you recognize, not a case of, this is my opinion, do it my way, and that's the only way, because then you are not in your power. Speaking a lot, I have a dry mouth, just a minute. Okay, so any questions on that, please drop them in the chat. And I have to say, if there's anyone watching here that thinks, oh, this would be really cool on my page, or I've got a friend that would be really interested in this, please tag them or share this post, pop it on your page. And I don't know if this is possible, but if anyone wants to share this in my group, in my Support Your Soul group, or on my private page, then please do. That would be super helpful. And what I would like to do is anybody who shares my post, which will just pop on there that you've shared it, but I think it will come up at the end. I would like to give you a little gift, which once I have pulled your name out the hat, I will let you know which gift will be given to you. But it'll be one of my recordings of one of my workshops, or even a place on one of my upcoming ones. So yeah, just share this, or tag a friend, or get it out there, because I would love to have some more questions and some energy on here. So how are we all doing? Does that all make sense? Any questions on what I have shared, or anything you want me to cover before I move on to I wrote it down, I'm so organised. We've got a list. Okay, I said I'll talk about holy fire. So who on here, I know some of you have taken holy fire with me, that I can see your faces on there. Who here knows about holy fire? Are you thinking, what am I talking about? Or who is attuned to Reiki? Let me know what you think, or what your questions are on the holy fire energy. Whilst I am waiting for your millions of questions to turn up, let me talk about it. So I already said that the holy fire came to me. So I had been Assoi Reiki attuned since 2008, and I think it was 2017, I think, when I took my holy fire, when holy fire found me. So what was the difference? What did I really experience? So holy fire Reiki is an evolution. It's come from Assoi Reiki. It has moved. It's been developed by a chap called William Lee Rand, who has written loads. He's literally written the guidebook on Reiki, as seen. So he's literally written the book on Reiki, and he Reiki's been his life, just like Master Assoi was a scholar of his time. I think William Lee Rand has really got this reverence towards Reiki. So back in the sort of mid 2010s, this energy started to come through him, and the main difference is, so if you know about Assoi Reiki is universal life force energy, right? So we are drawing upon the energy of the universe to harness that power within us, to harness that healing energy within us, so that it can transfer through our hands or through our intentions, right? And we use the Reiki symbols once we come into Reiki 2, Reiki practitioner, and then when we progress into Reiki master or Reiki master teacher, we learn how to pass on the Reiki energy. So the Reiki energy comes through a lineage from the teacher into the student, and it comes through my or your teacher's energy field. Now, this energy was early 1900s was when this energy first started to come in. And at the time, I think it was absolutely right for what we needed, right? We are a nation of ascending humans. And for me, like I said earlier in today, Reiki really changed my life. Reiki really opened me up to the possibility of energy, of healing, of empowerment, of understanding that there is more to life than just what I can see, touch, feel and taste. It was a very tangible energy coming through me, and it healed my back, and it led me to loads of different things. But the holy fire energy is an evolution of this, so it very much takes in the form of Assoi Reiki. So we still work with the symbols, we still work with many of the practices, the hand positions, or the scanning and the intuitive hand positions and the gasho and all of this stuff that is based on Assoi. But there is a key difference. When you are receiving the attunement, or they call them placements, as it comes from source, it comes from that what they call the high heavens, which is like where we go, or where the energy is, where the ego is healed. So there's no ego or personality energy. So what that means is when it comes through to you, it's very much the energy that you need, and it is very refined, because me as the teacher isn't getting involved. So there's no transference between the light and you. So you will receive the purest form of energy that you can. Now, please know that I'm not saying this to say anything derogatory about Reiki. Like I said, Reiki has changed my life. But I made the decision at the beginning of last year, at the beginning of 2020, to focus on the holy fire rather than the Assoi, because for me it feels more current, it feels more relevant, it is more refined. You know, you think about where we were energetically, spiritually, awarenessly, is that even a word? Where we were then and where we are now. We are rising. We are so much more aware and awake of how many of us have been spending the last who knows how long raising our vibration. Well, guess what? Our vibration has been raised. And for me, the holy fire works with that because it's a newer current energy. So we're tapping into that higher source. So that's the main difference, but then there's other things that I just love about the system. Now, this was groundbreaking for me. So listen to this. We often hear about the ego, right? Tell me what you have heard about the ego. You know, some of the best teachers, Wayne Dyer, you know, what do they say? Ego stands for edging God out. And so many of the teachings have been transcend the ego, kill the ego, death of ego. It's all about letting go of the ego. And honestly, so I don't know, you tell me what your thoughts are on the ego. I would love to hear. For me, I get it, because the ego could be seen as that negative voice. The ego could be seen as that destructive, as that small self. So I get all of that. But for me, I always resisted that idea that the ego is, Kerry said, ego, pay more attention to something. Yeah, so the ego will like direct your attention one way or the other, and it's not always there for your spiritual growth. But yeah, I've always resisted in some way the thought of killing my ego off, because you know what? Like, I quite like parts of my ego. There's, you know, it's got me here to where I am, and it's giving me a personality, and it's making me understand that I am me having my experience, and you are you having your experience, and that's okay. You know, the ego is, I think, what causes that separation between you and I. So yes, we are all one, and yes, we all have that unity, and we are all one species, but the ego is that almost like safety mechanism, maybe, that helps me understand that what I'm going through is what I'm going through, what you're going through is what you're going through. Okay. I'm not disagreeing with the we are all one. We are all one, but this is a separate conversation. Okay. Shelley said, befriend the ego, it keeps you safe. Absolutely. Now, I remember reading in the Holy Fire Manual this, and I was like, this is amazing. I love this. That the essence of Holy Fire, the energy, what is it doing as it's raising our vibration? It's helping us to heal the ego. Heal the ego. Like, this is groundbreaking. There is nothing anywhere, like I'd not heard any other spiritual teachers talk about healing the ego. Healing the ego. Like Shelley says, befriending the ego, because it keeps you safe. And that's what the Holy Fire does. You know, it talks a lot about coming back into your authentic self. My authentic self isn't me as a spiritual being. It's me as a spiritual being in a human body, having a human experience, being me, Melissa, in this life with my, with my children and my job and my friends and my home and, my husband and all of these aspects. Now, if I can bring my ego in, if I can integrate that into my life so that it's working with me, it's working with my spirit, it's I'm not just healing my body, I'm healing my I'm going to say shortcomings, as for want of a better word, but it's healing that full aspect of me so that I can show up as me, as Melissa. Because let's be honest here. What brought me here today doing this show, right? There has to be some ego involved in it. Now, the ego can do one of two things. The ego can go, you ain't good enough for that. And you sit back and who do you think you are starting a show? And who's going to want to listen to you? And what experience have you had? And you're not good enough and blah, 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 blah. So often we say about the ego and we think, oh, you're big-headed. That, in reality, you tell me, right, you must feel this, that the ego is, can often be the opposite. It's trying to keep us small. It's trying to keep us safe. Isn't the ego the I in I am? I'm not sure. I think that the I am is the presence that sits behind all of that. But yeah, I get what you mean, Kelly, that the I is the me. The I is the thing that differentiates me from you. So yeah, I don't know. I've not heard that. I quite like that. So for me, what did the holy fire do, and what's the difference with that? It is bringing that healing to that ego aspect of me. Not to say, go away, ego, I don't need you anymore, I'm on my spiritual path. But to say, hey, ego, like Shelley says, ego sits in the passenger seat, you are the driver. It's like, hey, ego, come with me. I want to do this. What brings me joy is helping people, come into their power and to speak about spirit. Like, this is like literally my favorite thing, to speak about spirituality and concepts and to share. And if my ego starts to get healed and come with me, it's no longer holding me back. It's no longer sitting there going, shut up, all the listeners are dropping off. No one's sharing your post. No one wants to see you, right? I'm bringing healing in there. So I was talking about holy fire. I've now moved on to the ego, but that's been a massive change and a massive difference for me. Yeah, so that makes sense to everybody. Okay. The other things I would say about holy fire is when I'm working with clients, they can often feel it. And if you want to have a session, we can work with the holy fire distantly. And I'm actually trained or qualified to teach holy fire online. So whether you are already Assoi trained and you want to upgrade, I suppose, or to receive the holy fire placement and the rest of the teachings, then we can do that. Or if you are, let's say, Assoi 1 or 2, then you can come and take the holy fire practitioner. So it's there, and what it will do is it will upgrade that energy. It will bring that more refined energy to the symbols and the energy in your body. So hopefully that all makes sense. I can see a few of you on here that do holy fire, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. You can share with the group. Okay, goodness me, time flies. I thought I'd be sitting here going, what am I going to talk about? Oh, Kerry, can't wait. Kerry is taking her Holy Fire 2 with me in May. Okay, I had a message from Bev Green. This is probably a whole hour show. I've got turn off just before 8 because I am doing a course at 8 o'clock. So Bev asked, how do you know you are intuitive? And do you have any tips on how to develop? How good is that question? How do you know you are intuitive? Let me give you the flip side of that too. Katja said, Holy Fire Reiki, the energy is very real. And it is. Okay, so Bev, intuitive. How do you know you're intuitive? I'm going to give you the flip side of that. Most of us are intuitive. We have this, we understand energy. We are drawn to energy. We get that feeling. You know, how many times have we said things like, oh, the vibe's good in here, or oh, I got a really bad feeling about that, or, you know, oh, I knew that was going to happen, right? We use it in our language every day. We often, however, mistaken our intuition for imagination. And that's probably one of the most common questions I get if I'm coaching people through their records, or, you know, we're doing a meditation class with them and they're like, how do I know it's not my imagination? So here's what I'm going to put to you. If you start to receive these intuitive hits, if you are having this, I don't know, for example, you're in a meditation and you start to see, I don't know, a panther comes in and it takes you down this road, and then this angel comes through and la la la, right? This story starts coming up for you. Why would you think that? Like, where is that coming from? So you think, oh, it's just my imagination. But actually that's a concept that has been drummed into us as a child. It's just your imagination. It was just a dream. But it's got to have come from somewhere. Now, this also comes through to giving your ego something to do, right? When you go into meditation, you go into journey, or you're, you know, in tune with somebody in that way, you are giving your... you're setting your intention, you're setting your direction, and so your imagination, your thoughts, your inner world will start to go towards that. So if you're starting to get, I don't know, visions of, you know, this happening or this being removed, or, you know, something maybe even coming in for a past life, where else would it have come from apart from your higher self, or from your intuition? Does that make sense? It's got to have come from somewhere. And I would say one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself if you want to lift your intuitive abilities is start to trust your imagination. One of the things when I just started with my last mentorship group that we did, and a lot of that was, okay, well, how am I going to expand my intuition? One of the first things I said to them was, you need to take more notice of your surroundings. So start to do mindful activities. So, you know, you think about how intuition works, or how our intuitive muscles work. How do they work? They come through our senses. So I might not be physically seeing something, or hearing something, or seeing or tasting something, but it's coming, I am getting a feeling about something, or I could see that something's coming in, you know. Like you say, oh, I could see that happening, or I really got a bad feeling about this, right? We use it in our language to say that we knew of something before, right? So if we aren't present in the current moment, then how are we going to know when an intuitive hit comes in? So if you can start to be more present, notice what you are seeing, notice what you are hearing, notice what you are feeling. And like physically, you know, doing that mindful practice where you look at 5 things that you can see, and 4 things that you can hear, and 3 things you can touch, and maybe 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, right? This is really activating our senses. And as we activate our senses, we start to, it's like we're training ourselves to understand what's going on around us. as we start to do this, it's like we're sending those messages in our brain, like, you know, be aware. And then suddenly when something else comes in through a like internal vision or a third eye vision or through an intuitive voice, you know, or understanding that voice in our heads, which is how a lot of us who are clairaudient hear it. It's very rarely a voice outside of our heads. We're more aware as to what is real and physical and what is coming in. But it's very hard to tune up those intuitive senses if we are blind to the outside world. So when I was working with my mentorship group, that's what I got them to do, is to do that every day. And that's where we began. The next step from there is to start to understand how you get intuitive hits or how your intuition works. So I just mentioned some of this, right? Is that we've got our 5 senses, and when we are talking about intuitive, you've probably heard about the clairvoyants, right? And the clairvoyants they're the seers. They're the ones who maybe have I don't have one here, have the crystal ball and can see through that, or they're like, I can see in the future, this and this, and they don't always do this. But we hear about the clairvoyance, and that is often the sense that we want to develop. But it's like, I can't see anything, you know, and I hear it a lot in meditation. Oh, if I didn't see it, does that mean it didn't happen? Right? Oh, I'm no good at this because I couldn't visualize it. But actually, the truth is that we have different ways of working with our intuition, because some of us, we hear it. Now, I again mentioned this a bit earlier. We're kind of expecting this voice to come booming in, going, take the right turning or whatever. But actually, it's often the voice in our heads that's saying that's giving us that hit. Like for me, when I hear something, I'm usually hearing it in my own voice rather than as something external to me. I do have to say this, there is a difference though between my own internal monologue and an intuitive and what's coming intuitive, but maybe that's something we can talk about in another week. So hopefully that's not my battery, no. So yeah, we want to use our senses. So there's clairvoyant, which is seeing. There's clairaudient, which is hearing. There's clairsentient, which is about feeling. So that might be like you feel something in your body. And those of you that do practice like energy medicine or, you know, Reiki or something like that, often when we are working with a client, we may feel it in our body, or we start to feel it in our hands. You know, we can feel for that imbalance, and that is a form of clairsentience. Or we just get a feeling about something, so that can be said for your intuition. And then there's the other one, which I would say is my dominant strength, and maybe for some of you, and it is the most obscure thing, and it is the thing that you have to, that it helps if your ego is on the healing journey, and that you have a lot of trust. And this is the clair-knowing. This is just knowing. This is just, you know, you're with something and you just know. It's like you have a download in your head, and it's like, I don't know, I'm not seeing it, I'm not hearing it, I'm not feeling it, I just know it. And when you have that, it's very important to start trusting it. So what I would say, if you want to develop your intuition, is to first of all understand which is your dominant clair, your dominant way of receiving that information. And there's quite an easy way of doing that. You can do it with me now if you wish. So if you close your eyes for a minute, and I just ask you to be aware that you are walking in a forest. So just close your eyes and just imagine that you are in a forest, and the leaves are blowing in the wind. and the sun is shining and is penetrating onto your skin, and the earth is below you, and you've got bare feet. And just immerse yourself just for a minute. I only need to take a minute in this forest, and just notice what you notice. And as you come back, just tell me, how did you experience that? How did you know you were in a forest? Did you see the trees? Did you feel the warmth of the sun? Did you see the brightness of the sun? Did you hear the leaves rustling in the wind, or did you feel the breeze on your skin? Did you could you smell the forest? If you just share on the comments how you experienced that would be super helpful, because we all that was probably 30 seconds and we all just did the same experience, but you may have all experienced it very differently. Some of you, so for me, I'll often just kind of know, it's like, okay, I'm in a forest, and then I'll start to see the trees, and then I might see the brightness of the sun, for example, and then I'll start to feel that calmness, or I might even, the freshness of the air. So Kerry said, saw the trees and path and heard the water and the birds. So here we're bringing in two Claires, and Shelley's saying visually. So often we'll start with one that will generally be our dominant sense, but we are multi-sensual people. So we will often then start to bring in the other aspects to build that picture, to build that scene. So when you're working, don't be put off. A lot of people, a lot of these meditations, these guided meditations that we listen to on YouTube or whatever are very visual. See this, or but actually let go of having to see it and allow yourself to experience it, and just trust what that is. Because as you start to do that, you will become more aware of the different ways that spirit talks to you, or your intuition talks to you. And then from there, with that first exercise I said to you about doing it physically, what do I see, what do I hear, what do I smell, we can start to broaden our experience. So then naturally, when we see something, we're then going to tap into that next space. So those of you who have that knowing thing, where you just know, that's great, because it's quite broad. But then you can start to go, okay, so what could I see? And even not what can I see, if I could see this, what could I see? If it had a color, what would it be? If it had a sound, what would it be? If it had a smell, what would it be? And you can really bring that start to bring those scenes to life. So for me, that will help you develop your way of experiencing this. Bev's question is quite broad. How do you know you are intuitive, and how do you develop it? Start with that. Give yourself a mission to, just to come into meditation, or to experience the divine, or, today I'm connected with the higher self. Thank you to my higher self for, for showing me your guidance today. And then notice what you notice. We all are intuitive. We all have that seed within us. Just some of us are more dialed in to that or not. Some of us are more trusting of it, and some of us have more of a natural ability, but that doesn't mean that it is far away from anybody. And if you're here watching this still, I see some of you, thank you, have still been here for the hour, right? You've got an interest in it, so it's there, and it's just a case of allowing it and opening it and trusting that. trusting that, okay, that you are worth it, and that you are able, and that you are, yeah, you know, I think we're living in such a time that we are being called to step up, and that we're being called into our intuition, that we are being asked to live this earthly life, but from a spiritual perspective. And really, if you're here now in 2021 and beyond, that's our mission. And so the more of us who are here and are aware, even if it's in a small moment, even if it's just noticing that robin or that butterfly or that feather, or that, you know, that the song that comes on extra loud, or that on the radio, or that thing, oh, I better phone my friend, I wonder how she's doing today. And the more we follow that guidance and bring healing into our ego self, our ego mind, and acceptance of that, then the stronger that we will be. Intuitively, spiritually, earthily. Can I say earthily? I know I'm making up words now. I've been talking for a long time. So yeah, I hope that has helped, and I hope that you have enjoyed my first episode. I'm going to upload this, hopefully, onto my YouTube channel. Subscribe and like. Sorry, that's my sons. They keep asking me how many subscribers I have. 13 at the last count. So I will get this uploaded onto there, and I will be back here on Monday at the same time at 7 o'clock. Please ask me your questions. I would love to hear what you would like to know about, and join me live, and let whoever know if you think they'll be interested in it. And if you are interested, on Thursday I am here at 7:30, and we will be talking about the Akashic Records and cutting cords and contracts. So if you're interested in that and you'd like to come along, you don't need any experience, just send me a message and I will get all the details. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you guys for your love and for your support and for your questions. And yeah, keep in touch. I would like to hear any feedback. Be kind. Okay, I'm going to go because I'm doing a course for the next 15 weeks. So that starts in a moment. Bless you all. Thank you all for watching, and many blessings. I will see you next week. Bye.